This is easily the worst anime I've seen in my entire life. It's not bad by any means, far from it in fact, but it's just too much. So the year is 2020. We're 4 months into the lockdown. I haven't gone to school in months, and to be honest, I was having the time of my life. But above all else, I had just started watching anime and I was on a roll. From The Devil is a Part-Timer, Darling in the Franxx, Attack on Titan, Tonikawa Over the Moon for You, I was eating good. But then I came across a little anime called Devilman Crybaby. Now, I didn't really know much about this anime. I didn't even have an idea on what the plot was. I just went for it and yeah, to get this out the way, I had no business watching this at the age of 13. It was just too much. I mean, it had it all from violence, nudity, extreme nudity, and practically everything in between. It legitimately messed me up. I'm bleeping most of this stuff because in no way, shape or form can I say any of these things on a public platform. For 2 weeks straight, I couldn't wrap my head around what I just watched because it stayed with me, and it stayed with me for years. For years, the thought of rewatching or even talking about Devilman Crybaby sent shivers down my spine. Well, until I rewatched it earlier today, and I have to say, wasn't that bad. Now, this isn't the first time I've tried rewatching this anime. I did give it a chance like a couple of years back. I couldn't even get past the first episode. Now, I know I'm making it sound like this anime messed me up and scarred me for life. Far from it, in fact, it's just the first time I watched this, especially at the age of 13. It was too much for me. If I were to describe it, the closest and most recent experience I had similar to watching Devilman Crybaby was when I watched the end of Evangelion for the first time and the third impact happened. If you've seen Evangelion, you know what I'm talking about, but if I were to describe the third impact, especially when I'm comparing it to Devilman Crybaby, it's just too much to comprehend. I think if you've watched enough movies, anime, or other forms of media, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But going back to Devilman Crybaby, I didn't even plan on rewatching this. I just came across a random TikTok kind of explaining the 90s anime, and I have to say, it did sound pretty interesting, and I was like, hey, what the heck. Now, we all know the story of Devilman Crybaby. We follow our main character Fudo, who gets possessed and fuses with the champion demon Amen, but instead of becoming a demon, Fudo is still able to maintain his humanity and becomes a Devilman instead. With the help of his millionaire friend Rio, Fudo is able to use his Devilman powers to fight evil and become Devilman. As the story progresses, we find out that Fudo isn't the only Devilman and that there are tons of others like him out there, and from then on, shit just hits the fan. The existence of demons is revealed, society collapses, Rio turns out to be Lucifer, him and his devil horde wipe out humanity, him and Fudo duke it out, Fudo dies, God wipes out the earth, the end. You know, pretty wholesome stuff. I have to say, the first time I watched Devilman Crybaby, it messed me up, but rewatching it 6 years later, it's pretty meh, but why? Now, obviously, there are reasonable explanations to this. For one, I've grown up since then, and secondly, my relationship with media has evolved over the years, so much so that I've become pretty desensitized to this kind of content, which is not a flex. Now, don't get me wrong, every terrible, messed up, deplorable thing that I mentioned earlier on still does happen in the anime. Devilman Crybaby is not a pleasant watch. But kind of stepping away from all the gloomy stuff, as an anime, I really enjoy Devilman Crybaby. This is a very high concept show for the most part, and I have to say the way they handle the apocalypse in this is really cool. The anime portrays the collapse of society and how humanity will be the cause of it perfectly. Rio does obviously end up becoming the main villain at the end of the story, and the way he causes mass panic and fear-mongering is genius. There's a moment in the later episodes where Rio plays the video of Fudo getting possessed by Amon in front of the world, but he chopped it up in a way to make it look like Fudo was the one responsible for killing all those people. Now, obviously, the way this video is edited is pretty shitty because you can clearly tell that Rio and the demons are the ones responsible for killing all these people, but I'm quite curious whether or not the anime did this on purpose to show how gullible people are, or the animators just got lazy. But either way, the way it was done, it worked. Now, as much as I enjoyed Devilman Crybaby this time around, it kind of goes back to my original point that there's a lot, and I mean there's a lot of sexual stuff, like an uncomfortable amount. Now, you can make the argument that this was done on purpose to show how deprived and lustful humanity is, but it kind of gets to a point. To get this out the way, there is no space for this kind of sexual content, especially at that scale, and it being disguised as an anime does not justify them putting this on an actual screen for people to watch. To kind of close off the video, Devilman Crybaby is an okay anime to say the least, but the way it handles certain things, it's just not worth it, and to be honest, you're not really missing out.